Ricky Fuller to win Richmond. The Coors Tour opened at Lee with thrashing and crashing as Erlin went on to win the first event of the season. And Jerry Marquis wins the twin billing at Riverside for event number 2 of the season. $105,000 is the main attraction as the men of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour perhaps take on their biggest challenge. The challenge is Richmond International Raceway, and the men of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour will be running here for the very first time. Hello, I'm Ben Dodge, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Race Week. Well, in this edition of Race Week, we're taking a look at an event that pays $105,000. There are 34 of the nation's best NASCAR Winston Modified Tour competitors, and they're looking to win this event. It's like deja vu as we look back and take a look at Super Speedway Modified racing, again being put to the test. The speeds are in excess of 120 miles per hour. And the story was George Kent, the gentleman who set fast time to be the first of the modified superstars here at the Richmond International Raceway. But besides all of that, we'll be taking a look at other great short track competition from Riverside Park Speedway. And we'll also take a look at Lee, USA, where the stars of the Coors Tour will once again try their skills short track style. But right now, the racing action will take place right here at the beautiful Richmond International Raceway, where the men of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour will be in search of the brass ring, the money, the glory, and more from Richmond International Raceway. The men of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour were perhaps taking on their biggest challenge ever. 200 circuits around the three-quarter-mile facility with speeds in excess of 130 miles an hour. 34 of the best open-wheel modifieds were assembled. They anticipated the green, and George Kent was the fastest car in the field as he'd be setting up front to the inside of the front row. As the field went to green, Mikey Waditsko would be challenging to the outside into turn number 1. But it was George Kent who threaded the needle and set the pace at the front of the field. Off the turn down the back straightaway, things would get strung out just a bit. But there was already a challenge on among the top 6 positions. Challenging and working his way to the front of the pack was now Mike Stefanik. He'd set the pace and start to pull away. Kent would run the outside as Iwanitsko would try to keep it nice and low. Into turn number 1, just coming off the tri-oval, there was a challenge now occurring for position number 2. Once again, the outside lane was quickest. Kent would take back the number 2 spot. Stefanik would lead the event for 68 circuits before dropping out with an engine problem. Then Reggie Bergerio would blow a left rear tire with car number 44. Eddie DeHunter would spin to avoid and regroup and join the competition. But for Ruggiero, the tire would be the story here. But back at the front of the field, a brand new leader was in command. It was Jeff Fuller. He would lead for quite some time before he would lose and have a problem with the rear end with car number 8. Hirschman would then come to life as Mike McLaughlin would take over the lead, and Hirschman would hunt him down. Now it was a 3-car bid for the lead, as Rick Fuller would make a bold move to the bottom and take over position number 1. McLaughlin was forced to tuck back into second, but Hirschman was alive on the outside. The two would draft down the back straightaway as Fuller was in command. Hirschman was hunting him down, and Satch Worley, some 3 laps down, was making up valuable ground on the racetrack. It was now a bid for the lead. As car 77 was on the high side, Hirschman would take over position number 1. The two would battle consistently, lap after lap. McLaughlin waiting in the wings. Then down the back straightaway, horsepower would decide who'd have position number 1. And one of the Bob Bruno motors would set the pace. It was Rick Fuller now in command, but the fight was still on. One of 3 combinations here, but Fuller was doing a bannerful job of being the man to dominate. Fuller would hold it nice and low as Hirschman would try once again. McLaughlin had reeled him back in, and it was still a 3-car bid for the lead. Deep into the turn, Hirschman would reel him back in. Right there to contend as a factor when suddenly Hirschman's car would dart to the right and then to the left and slam the wall hard. Doug Heveron would also spin, bringing out a caution with less than 6 circuits to go. Hirschman was then taken to the medical center and later released. Car number 1 was definitely out of the competition. The red flag situation resulted the field to tighten up. Less than 5 circuits to the checker. It was a battle right to the wire. It was Rick Fuller to take advantage of the restart. Satch Worley, the fastest car in the field, was several laps down in the competition. But Fuller was out in front and perhaps had the biggest lead of the event. Mike McLaughlin was still battling, this time with a lap car, Tom Baldwin, with car number 7. But it was Rick Fuller in command of the event. He would hold on to take down the $17,000 victory to win at the Richmond International Raceway. Finishing in second was Mike McLaughlin. Third would go to Jan Leedy. Fourth was Jamie DeMano. And finishing in fifth was Tommy Bowles. Sixth spot was Larry Moore, an impressive run. Seventh spot was Doug Hebron. Eighth would be Mike Iwanitzko. Ninth is Tom Baldwin. And 10th was Doug Walcott. It was a big day for Rick Fuller in the Keeper Corporation's Pontiac.
If any team out here needs the money more, it's definitely us. The car ran well all day. The pit stop was super. The Cup guys will probably be looking for my pit crew next week.
Over the last few laps when the caution came out for Tony Hirschman, what was going on in your mind with the red flag period out there, knowing Mike McLaughlin, the former champ, was right on your tail?
Well, Tony was running really well, but I saw Michael was having a problem. It looked like he may have been skipping or whatever. I knew if I got a pretty good jump on the start, I wasn't going to have to worry about anything except debris on the racetrack that I may have picked up after Tony's accident.
Well, last week you lost a tough one at the Thompson International Speedway with 30 laps to go, but there was no way they were going to get by you this time, were they?
No, the car was going to get wide enough to win this one.
I just got to thank Coors Extra Gold for being with us, and the 44 crew for loaning us the motor this week. We had a little motor difficulty, and we were ready to go home. And Mario and John Lubeck offered us an engine. We put it in. So if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even be out there. The restart, the cars seem to be quicker on the restarts. Just ready to shift from third to fourth, and it blew, third gear. I said, oh no, I didn't miss a shift again. I've been known for missing shifts. Just getting ready to shift, third gear blew, so I had to go to high. You know, I lost all kinds of ground getting going. Once I got up to speed, the car was good. It would have been an interesting finish. After the race is over, I come down the backstretch, no third. And I must be third in reverse in the same gear because I wanted to back up here in pits and couldn't back up either. So I was just happy to finish. This is a racetrack because there's 2 grooves. There's no blocking. You know, if you're 5 to go, you can't pull to the bottom and hold the guy off because he's just going to drive around you. You can't go up top and hold them off, you can drive under you. So this is a racetrack. You're going to see good races here. You know, in the beginning on a track like this, everybody's so fast that until they, you know, the setups start coming into play, you know, cars going faster and slower than others. It'll be single file, but man, you're going to see racing to the end like you did here today. If you can run on tracks like this all the time.
And what a race it was, right to the checker. After 3 events on the Modified Tour, Jamie DeMano leads with 495. Rick Fuller is second with 439, and brother Jeff is third with 433. Satch Worley is fourth with 423, and Doug Hebron is fifth with 416. Tommy Bowles sets in sixth with 415 over George Kemp with 398. Charlie Rudolph has 382 in eighth. Ninth is Tony Hirschman with 380, and 10th is Bobby Park with 376. There is no question about it that the men of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour have performed flawlessly here at the Richmond International Raceway. Their performance here in this super speedway shows not only a great deal of talent, but a bright future ahead of them. Well, next we'll be taking a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Brian Danko as he'll file another report from behind the scenes on Stopwatch.
All of these big track is focused.
Welcome back to Race Week. Well, next we're going to be taking a look at another one of those special reports from behind the scenes. And this time, Brian Danko has searched up and down pit road. The topic on this edition of Stopwatch is exactly how safe it is for the modified competitors to run here at Richmond International Raceway.
Welcome to another edition of Stopwatch. I'm Brian Danko. Well, here we are at Richmond, Virginia for the first running ever of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour here for the Twin 200-lap event. Several safety factors have gone into this race here. Number one being the barrels here. Now, these barrels have been placed here by NASCAR in case any of the modified teams miss pit road entrance. Now, that may sound kind of funny, but in the Busch Grand National race in February, Mark Martin hit and shattered these barrels. Another big concern on the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour drivers is their lack of superspeedway experience. Now, many drivers do have superspeedway experience, such as Mike McLaughlin, Reggie Ruggiero, and Satch Worley, but many others don't, and that is a big concern to several of the drivers. Well, earlier today, we had a chance to talk with them and find out what their concerns and views are.
Oh, there's been a couple drivers that have had some experience where they're definitely going to be better off. The draft does play an effect here. What also plays a big effect is a couple of the guys have put full windshields and full rear windows in their car. And I tried coming up on them once or twice yesterday, and it really messes the air up behind their car for the person following them. And it's if you stay 40 feet back, it seems like you're safe, but when you get right up on those cars that have got those windshields, it's a little hairy.
I just hope that all the guys use their head today and have respect for the speed. After you get going about 8 or 10 laps out here, you feel like you're not going fast. That's because you're on a track that there's no acceleration due to speed, the fact that you're going fast all the time. And you get sort of overconfident with yourself, have a tendency to take it deeper in the corners. You know, you're always trying to keep yourself paced so that when you end up getting at the end of the straightaway, you think, well, now I'm at an end of the straightaway, I got to slow down. Here, you're probably going 140 on the straightaways, probably 110 in the corners. There's not that much difference in speed. You get overconfident, and a lot of guys will get in trouble.
Well, there's a couple of things that bother me. One is, when you drive behind another car, it seems to take the air out of going through our car, and therefore taking some air off our rear spoiler. That's by following a car, unlike Winston Cup cars where you seem to have a problem if you're ahead of a car. I experimented with that a little bit Saturday, running behind a couple of different cars, and our car definitely loosened up when I got behind another car. So that's one concern. You know, I think that I'm somewhat prepared for that, but I don't know how many of the other guys have taken the time to experiment with that. And then, of course, the obvious thing is the open wheels on the high-speed track. The guys have got to give each other a lot of respect today.
The biggest concern today, I think, will be everybody just getting a good feel of their car, because this is not a racetrack where you can run loose. We're a short track. You can have the car loose and kind of slide it sideways and manhandle it, where today you're not going to be able to, because you're going so fast, you're on a ragged edge, say, and when it goes out from under you, there's not much saving it. So everybody's going to have to keep in mind that point, you know, and stay out of trouble.
Let's just hope that all of the competitors gain maturity and poise on running a super speedway, and I think that NASCAR and modified racing will flourish on these tracks. Again, that's where the big money is, that's where the exposure is. For Stopwatch, I'm Brian Danko.
Thanks, Brian. Well, now it's time to take a look at short track competition. We go from the biggest speedway, Richmond International Raceway, to the smallest quarter mile in New England, the Riverside Park Speedway. It's time for event number 2 of the season, and the men of modified racing in 3 other divisions are ready to try their skill. It was the second night of the season for the men at Riverside Park Speedway. Car number 90, the defending champion Bruce D'Alessandro, would be starting to the inside of Charlie Pastriak in turn number 1. Heavy contenders were already starting to dial their way in the back of the pack. As D'Alessandro was setting the pace, it was Ricky Summers who was running strong when Brian Schofield would make contact and slide to the bottom of the racetrack. Then 2 cars would be locked together, Kenny Bouchard and John Zavisa, just as the field was ready to go back to green. Back up front, it was Jerry Marquis now contending for the lead. He'd come in contact with Charlie Pastriak as another caution would come out on the field, and both Pastriak and Marquis would have to do it now from the back of the pack. This would change the complexion of the event, putting Bruce D'Alessandro back in command. Dan Avery was running strong to the outside as he would try to make the outside lane work. Bob Povereri was trying to hold off Jerry Marquis, who was threading the needle, who would have now worked his way up to the third spot. But third wasn't good enough. He now took back position number 1. And D'Alessandro was almost shocked by the quick move of Marquis as another caution would come out. This time, Dan Avery would make contact as Ken Bouchard would move in with car number 0. Bob Povereri, the 4-time champion, had also met with misfortune as the Avery car would show the worst of the wear and head back to the pits on 2 hooks. It was back to green, and D'Alessandro was now working his way to contend with George Rodinas for position number 2. Marquis was still way out in front, and Rodinas had now taken over the number 2 spot. It was Ricky Summers holding off John Zavisa when contact would be made, and Zavisa would slide through the center of the infield. Back to the racing surface, the story was still being told, as it was D'Alessandro now being hunted down by Ricky Summers for position number 3. Summers and D'Alessandro would make contact. As D'Alessandro would spin, Summers would cut a right front tire with car number 9. Another caution would come out. The defending champion would go to the pits and not return. Ryan Schofield would lose a hub with car number 09, and he too would be out of the competition here. While the field was under caution, the track crew would bring the remainings of car number 09 back to the infield. But when it was back to green, Marquis was still in command of the event. He would set the pace and pull away and hold on to take down the checker. George Rodinas would finish in second. Brad Hietala, a great run for third over Charlie Pastriak and Kenny Bouchard. The Pro Stock division was equally as impressive as Wayne Carroll would stand on the throttle in the start as Dan Avery would try to hold on in the outside groove. Heavy favorites like Jerry Marquis were still getting dialed in on the outside lane. Down the back straightaway, Bob Sokolowski was stuck on the bottom, Bobby G in the middle, and Wayne Carroll was pinched to the outside lane. Dave Krause was coming on strong, and so wasn't Chris Kopak. When Sokolowski would get a little bit out of shape, Bobby G would squeak by. Wayne Carroll had no place to go. Mike Duquette and Dave Krause would also be involved in the mix-up here. Caution was out on the field, but back to green. Blaine Bells would run strong to the outside, but Jerry Marquis would challenge on the bottom. Marquis was on a roll and defending champion. Car number 52 for Mark Farina was also coming to the front of the field. He was now challenging for position number 2. Bells was still holding on in the quest for that spot, but Farina was looking good. Marquis was gone out in front. Farina had now taken over second. Checkered flag would soon wave, and Jerry Marquis had won the pros and the modifieds in this event. Mark Farina would finish in second. Blaine Bells was third over Dan Avery and Dave Caruso. Late model racing action is always impressive at Riverside as Todd Anderson and Tom Carey with a borrowed automobile would be starting right up front. The stage was set and Anderson would look strong for a while, but Carey would fight back impressively as he would put the pressure on. Carey was in the low groove. Off the turn, he'd have it by almost a quarter of a car when suddenly a massive mix-up would occur down the back straightaway. John Johnson would be involved, and so wouldn't Sonny Fuega with car number 73. Back to green, it was Carey and once again Todd Anderson battling for the number 1 spot. Scott Foster was stuck in the middle as Ted Chalmers would work the outside lane, rim ride just a bit, as Kevin Zarnecki would make the move and pick up the spot. Then Roger Charette would dive to the bottom for the battle for 5th, sending Bob Skinger around with car number 88. Caution would come out, but back to green, it was still Carey. Zarnecki was hunting him down right to the wire, but Tom Carey would hold on and take down the win. Kevin Zarnecki in for second, G. Perry was third, Todd Anderson was fourth, and Roger Charette would finish in the 5th spot. Congratulations goes out to Jerry Marquis for impressive victory in the modifieds at Riverside. Remember, in night number 1, he came close, but in night number 2, he was the star of the show. Well, next we'll be taking another commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the best of the Coors Act Tour has to offer from Lee, USA in Lee, New Hampshire. Welcome back to Race Week. Well, now it's time to take a look at another big event, this one being run in the Northeast. Traditionally, Lee, USA in Lee, New Hampshire has hosted some of the best short track competition as part of the Act Coors Tour. Well, in this weekend, they tried their skills once again and put on one impressive show. As Dan Wolf will file this report.
Well, Ben, here it is, event number 1 of the 1990 American-Canadian Tour, the Coors 100 here at Lee, USA. 30 late model sportsman cars lined up on the track here at Lee, USA. Dave Dion set fast time. He's deep in the field, as is Russ Erlin. We spoke with Erlin before the race began.
Well, I'm going to start out with the same thing I did last year. I'm going to sit back for at least the first half of the race, and I think probably a lot of the 22 cars in front of me will clear themselves out and get single file, and I think probably from lap 50 or 60 on, I'll start racing.
1989 Coors Tour runner-up Dave Dion of Hudson, New Hampshire, echoed Erlin's caution.
Like Tom Curley said, kind of shake the cars out, get used to each other, and try to get rid of all our bad habits we accumulated, and hopefully we'll all have a pretty good day. We're running pretty good. We hope to move up a little bit anyway.
And five-time Coors Tour champion Robbie Crouch hoped to set the stage for his comeback at Lee.
Well, this race looks tough. You know, we've got a lot of cars, a lot of fast cars this weekend, and we're just hoping to get a good run today and get off to a good start this season.
Things got underway in the Coors 100 with sophomore driver Dan Beatty holding the early lead. By lap 10, Randy McDonald had pulled up to challenge Beatty. On lap 11, Claude Leclerc spun in turn 2, bringing out the first caution of the day. Major problems on the ensuing restart, once again in turn 1, sent Bill Zardo Jr. and Kelly Moore's 1X to the rear of the field. Randy McDonald put the AC Delco 01 car into the lead on lap 16, and it was McDonald, Dale Shaw, and Buzzy Bezanson at the front. By lap 25, it was McDonald, now challenged by defending champion Russ Erlin and 1989 points runner-up Dave Dion. Dion challenged the leaders on the outside, and Erlin dove under McDonald, forcing Dion into the wall. Dave Dion had to start at the rear, and ACT officials held McDonald in the pits for one lap under green while placing Erlin on the pole. More carnage on the restart, this time for early leader Dan Beatty, Roger LaPearl, and rookie Jim Gallison. Caution again on lap 30 for debris on the track, and an unusual move by leader Russ Erlin, who stopped on the track and backed up to remove a piece of debris caught in the spoiler of his automobile. Rookie Robbie Thompson left the race on lap 36 in a trail of smoke and flame. At the halfway point, it's Russ Erlin, the leader, followed by Dale Shaw, Buzzy Bezanson, Robbie Crouch, Kelly Moore, Claude Leclerc, and Dave Dion, who had worked back to 7th place from the rear of the field. On lap 57, the 5th caution of the day, as Dave Dion lost the right front in the Berlin City Ford Thunderbird. We spoke with Dion in the pit area.
Well, you know, we were going for the win. That's kind of the way we run the show, and it was hard on the outside, but I really felt as though we had the car to do it. So I went out there and I kind of walked the tightrope, and I don't know, they claimed they didn't see me there, but you know, I'd run 3 laps beside the guys I was racing, and all of a sudden there was no more racetrack. So I don't know, I guess maybe first day I should have been a little more conservative, but that's never been our style. I felt like we had the car to beat, and I was just going for it all, and that did it in.
The caution flag out again on lap 58 as Jim Gallison spins car number 30 into the first turn wall. Then on lap 62, former Seekonk Speedway standout Roger Godin saw his day end, making heavy contact with the backstretch retaining wall. On the restart, only 20 cars remained, and by lap 67, the 5th place car of Kelly Moore began to show smoke. And on lap 71, Buzzy Bezanson's 3rd place car began to dump water on the racing surface. Caution out on lap 75 as Ralph Nason and Bill Zardo spin, and Kelly Moore retires with differential problems, and Buzzy Bezanson goes behind the pit wall, overheating. The 11th and final caution on lap 79. On the restart, Erlin seesawed as Dale Shaw challenged high and low. At the finish, it was defending champion Russ Erlin, winner of event number 1 on the 1990 Coors Tour. In 2nd place, Dale Shaw, followed in 3rd by Robbie Crouch. 4th place went to Claude Leclerc. Rookie Steve Knowlton was 5th. Jean-Paul Cabana was 6th. Pole sitter Ron Benjamin posted 7th position. Randy McDonald recovered from his 1-lap penalty to post 8th. Derek Lynch was 9th, and Yvonne Bedard finished 10th. We caught up with an excited Russ Erlin in victory lane.
Well, I guess I can't say much more than I had a lot of good luck today, and just the way the double file restart started and the way this racetrack is. You know, Red McDonald's done an excellent job on this racetrack. It's a nice, smooth racetrack, and it's too bad we had all those wrecks today, but I guess maybe they did put on a show for the people in the stands.
I just didn't, you know, we've been really worried about how competitive we'd be with this type of car, because this is just an Oxford Saturday night car with a motor that has steel heads, no dry sump and all that, but that Hills RV's Pontiac worked great today, and boy, I hope we can be in the winner's circle at a lot more races of any kind.
I think it's just odds and ends. It was pretty close today. I couldn't really put my finger on where I was losing time, but definitely was losing a little bit somewhere in the corners, I think, and we'll just have to play with it a little bit, experiment.
On Victory Lane at Lee USA Raceway in Lee, New Hampshire for Race Week, I'm Dan Wolf reporting.
Well, it's once again time to close another edition of Race Week. You know, there's no question about it. The management of Richmond International Raceway have to be credited for doing an outstanding job. This was one of the most spectacular stops ever for the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour. And they've already told us that they want the Modifieds back. And if you weren't here for this one, you have to be here the next time around. It was one of the most exciting events ever run on the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour. And congratulations to all the winners, from Jerry Marquis at Riverside Park, the best the dirt have to offer from Cayuga County, and of course the Axe Coors Tour from Lee USA. They've all done a spectacular job. On the next edition of Race Week, we'll be taking a look at more short track excitement from Riverside Park Speedway. We'll also be visiting some more of your favorite dirt tracks, and Brian Danko will file another edition on Stopwatch. Until then, we say take care, and we'll see you again next time for the best in motorsports coverage right here with us on Race Week. Take care. Bye-bye now.